AITA for not telling my wife that I'm dying. Male, 31, is present. I've been struggling with a medical problem that necessitates frequent medicine and doctor appointments for the last 15 years. I had always expected to survive until I was in my 50s or 60s. But a new problem has reduced that to 12 months, at most 16 months. My health is expected to deteriorate significantly in the next 10 months. After a year, I'll be effectively living in the hospital. I've been married for 4 years, no kids. I haven't got the courage to break the news to my wife. I'm not even sure how. We knew I'd die sooner than I wanted, but we didn't expect it to be this soon. As much as I should inform my wife, I don't want my last year to be marred by approaching catastrophe. My wife and I have long discussed living overseas, maybe in Australia, but we have never found the time or money to do so. I've been saving enough to go to graduate school, but I don't see the purpose anymore. So here's my plan. Take part of that money and take my wife to Australia for a few months to spend some quality time together. I have a job that allows me to work remotely from any place, and she has a one that allows her to quickly find employment anywhere. We can work part-time and yet spend time together. I'll convey the news to her when we come back or maybe at the end. I simply don't want the vacation to be spoiled for us because of continual reminders of my death. I know my wife and she's highly emotional to the point where I worry she'll be sobbing all the time and not having fun. I want this memory to be pleasant for her and not be marred by the fact that my time is running out. AITA for delaying informing her I'm dying. Note, I have life insurance that will cover her expenses. Therefore, I'm not concerned about spending this money right now on this vacation. And I want to discuss a sperm bank with her in case she chooses she wants my children in the future, as well as premised birthday cards and other items for her to keep. Update. Hello everyone. I wasn't sure whether I was going to write this update, but things are growing bleaker, and I feel like I owe you guys closure for all of your support, as well as the multiple news stories lol. Despite the fact that I didn't answer much since everything was so new and stressful, I want every one of you to know that I read every single remark and letter numerous times over the last year and a half. I did eventually inform my wife about my post. As predicted, she took it hard. It devastated me to see her in that light, but I knew I had to tell her. She did, however, appreciate going over the original thread, as many of you shared heartfelt thoughts and words. We spent the time necessary to ensure that she was as well equipped as possible. Following that, we traveled to Australia and lived the finest 4 months of my life there. The experience was incredible, and I couldn't have wished for a finer way to die. We returned just in time for COVID. Honestly, I was terrified, and still am, but I've made it this far. I've lost a lot of strength, and hospice has arrived to set up the home and make sure I'm comfortable enough to die. I had expected to be dead by now, so it's difficult to grumble about having a little more time. I've left a significant collection of greeting cards with a friend, birthdays, first anniversaries without me, marriages, children's births and birthdays, if she uses my sperm. I didn't inform her about any of this since some of these situations are unpredictable, but I know they can aid if the occasion arises. Overall, I'm pleased, about as content as I can be. There are many things I would have done differently in life if I had known this was going to happen, but it's out of my hands. I do know, though, that I did all I could with the time I had left. I'm simply pleased I had time left when my health was still good, since I know many others aren't as fortunate. Thank you once again for all of your assistance. I'll answer any inquiries you have as long as they're not personally identifiable, which includes my medical information, as my town paper was thoughtful enough to write an article about me. Please be patient. Even typing for lengthy periods of time may be uncomfortable. Story 2. AITA for not wanting to do Thanksgiving dinner at my parents' / my wife. I'm a 30-year-old male who thinks it's crazy that I'm even asking the question. In the past, my sister, 29, and my wife, 34-year-old female, had a tense relationship. When my wife and I first met, she was my sister's landlady, and she was renting a room in the back of my wife's house 6 years ago when we first met. It took less than 4 months after she moved and before she was evicted because my sister had failed to pay her rent. Then she was taken to court, where she was awarded damages that much exceeded the amount of the security deposit she had paid. My sister was finally compelled to pay, but she was quite resentful of my wife as a result. My sister's goods were left behind by my wife, and I went to pick them up when we got together after everything had transpired. We struck up a conversation and had a terrific time. We started dating after a year and a half, and she got pregnant with our child a year after that. My sister, who is now happily married, was not pleased with the outcome of the situation. We weren't as close before all of this, but after I became a traitor in her eyes, we stopped communicating to one another completely. She hasn't even interacted with my 3-year-old child yet. My parents are trying to get the rest of us to gather for a Thanksgiving dinner at their house. My sister was never interested in attending since I'd be there with my wife, and she didn't want to see me, so she never went. My parents had never pursued it before since they didn't feel my sister was being fair considering the fact that the issues she has with my wife are totally her fault. They were right. This year, though, things are different since my sister has ended her 6-year relationship with her boyfriend, and this is her first Christmas without him. On the other hand, she is not interested in seeing my child or wife, which is why they have asked to be dropped off at their place of residence. The fact that my wife has no other relatives worries me, and I don't want her and my child to miss out on the festivities because my sister does not want them to be there. If I have to forego dinner with my wife so that my sister may have company while I can stay at home and spend time with my own family, it's not an issue for me. The reason my sister wants me there is because she wants the complete family there. Yet the reason I'm being a jerk is because she wants the entire family there. Her parents are supporting her since she has had a difficult year, having lost both her boyfriend and her career, and she just wants one Thanksgiving dinner with her family. I appreciate that it's been tough for her, but I don't see how it's selfish or mean to not want to exclude my family from the festivities. Update. Of course, I did not comply with their ludicrous request. I wasn't going to leave my wife and kid at home to eat with folks who didn't want my family there. It irritated me in ways you can't conceive. We fought before the meal because I couldn't believe my parents were okay with omitting my kid from time to time. The more I thought about it, the more it disturbed me. Then my sister called, yelling at me that I'm a jerk for not being there for her. To be honest, it was really vexing. We went back and forth, and all I remember is urging her to grow up and quit being such a spoiled brat. And she didn't call after that one either. We remained at home to celebrate Thanksgiving. My kid kept asking where Grandma and Grandpa were. I wasn't ready to tell him the true reason we weren't going with them, so we just told him they were unwell and we couldn't go. He was still interested in speaking with them. They video talked for a time, and then my sister could be heard in the background. Then they were in a rush to terminate the call. I'm sure she had no idea they were speaking to us. I try not to get too worked up over it so that we could all be in a nice mood. Thank you to whomever proposed a beautiful PJ Thanksgiving meal. We followed through on it, and it was rather peaceful. My kid decided to go all out with his dinosaur pajamas. It was a wonderful time. After supper, we built a pillow fort, and my kid slipped into a food coma, so my wife and I got some alone time as well. This was much superior than any supper with my parents and someone who shows no regard for my family. It gave me an entirely new perspective on them. I understand she is going through a terrible time and my parents are doing their best to assist her, but it stings to know that she was willing to put my family on the back burner in order to make her happy. As a result, we will not be spending Christmas with them either, which would have been a whole other story, but they did this to themselves. We're having a little family trip up to the mountains so that my youngster can enjoy the snow. Just something enjoyable to do on Christmas, so he doesn't think about the fact that we won't be spending it with his grandparents either.